Welcome to Intelligent Human Leadership, leading yourself and your team. Do you ever find yourself grappling with a lack of confidence in your team? Or battling the relentless waves of concern and fear? Are the pressures to meet client expectations and the burden of missed opportunities weighing you down? On this podcast, you'll discover the strategies and insights that will reignite your team's morale and help you find the harmony and knowledge you seek to propel your business forward. Here, we explore innovative ways to reignite your creative spirit and achieve greatness, empowering you to lead with intelligence, compassion, and resilience. If you're ready to dive deep into your core of leadership challenges and be guided toward success, here's your host, founder of Steward Your Business, David Carr.
Welcome back to the Intelligent Human Leadership Podcast. Grateful for you to be with me once again. Thank you for being on the journey. And if this is the first time you're listening to the podcast, thank you for coming along and becoming that most intelligent human leader. This time right now that I'm recording this has been tremendous here in Southern California. We've faced some, I won't say completely unprecedented, but for certainly in LA County, the losses recently there's two major fires here, the Palisades Fire and the Eden Fire, have just been a tremendous impact to our local community here, Southern California. Really, unfortunately, we've seen these things happen in California and in the West, but the way that things happen so quickly here is really just shocking, and just to see how fast and destructive our recent wildfires were, leaving a trail of ash quite literally all over, and we're seeing that in smoke and turmoil, emotional aftermath, right? And what I aim to do here in today's podcast is to take you a bit on a journey. For those of you that don't know, I was evacuated for 8 days in September for our line fire that burned over 40,000 acres in San Bernardino County, where I live. There was another large fire in Los Angeles County, over 50,000 acres. This is just back in September and into October and last year. And here we have multiple fires in the tens of thousands of acres, again, taking thousands of structures. And what I is move to a place of resiliency. I've talked about this in past episodes, but this is really important right now. Empathy, living in purpose in the face of tremendous loss, in the face of challenge. Unfortunately, it's not if these things will come, they will come at some point in our lives. Where we face physical challenges, we face financial challenges. In this case, we've lost physical things, our environment, our home. I've talked about this in the past as far as our peace. So there's a lot of things that are in turmoil. How can we, right the ship, if you will? How can we lead ourselves and lead our teams, lead our families, lead our community in an effective, influential way where we're not causing more damage or more harm? Unfortunately, that saying, hurt people, absolutely, it's true, but we can also change the story. We can change the dynamic and really move from the ashes to action and be that leader that is able to rise and ascend, if you will, amid the ashes. You hear the phoenix, if you will, right? Coming from the flames, coming from the ashes. It's what can we become? It's not really our desire. Sometimes we have to go through these difficult things. It's very challenging. It's very, very challenging. And I'm not going to come here on the podcast and say, I've got a quick fix, but I have a way of helping you mentally, emotionally, and hopefully that helps your physical well-being as you lead, have presence, and help lead you and those that you have the fortunate, a place to be and helping others. And so, these times can be transformative, even though they are challenging. I've talked about that one of my earliest episodes. where my wife and I've been through a divorce once before, and I was almost on the verge of that again. These challenges really rocked me to the core, but helped me clear off a lot of bad thinking, a lot of misunderstandings, and I wasn't showing up the healthiest way that I could. And so there's some opportunities here to strip away some things in a good way that we might not have faced otherwise. So although it's not the way we would have chosen to have to go through it, I want to encourage you and help equip you to move through these things and help hopefully be there for other people too that may not have the awareness. They may not be attuned to this, and they're in the reality of just the rawness of where they're at right now. But you can come alongside and meet them where they're at and help them along their journey. So, think about this emotional aftermath that you may be going through. This happens in businesses. Unfortunately, you lose key people. Key people, unfortunately, unexpectedly pass away. They take new positions. They move to new places. I've been a part of churches where you have very loved pastors and leaders, and they're called away. They're called to move. They leave, and there's a lot of attachment there, a loss of this person or this family or this group, right? And think about that, and appreciate that for what it was, what it had provided you. The homes that we have, the landscapes, these personal treasures. I've got many. I'm a big Star Wars fan, a collector. You see books behind me. I very much enjoy these things, but remember that these things are temporary, and that they don't define us. They're part of us, but they don't define ultimately who we are. We have to get to our core of who we are, and that's what I try to help you here on the podcast, is to get clearer on what is most important. We want to move to a place of safety and normalcy. That's totally normal, understandable, and you're in a place of transition and a storm, and it's not going to be like that right away, and for some time, honestly. But what can we do to process the feelings of sadness, depression, anger? There's a lot of anger and frustration about how could this happen, right? How could we run out of water? How could we not get airplanes up there? How come somebody's flying a drone and preventing the firefighters from doing their work? There's very much need to process these emotions in a healthy way, to grieve, to lament, if you haven't heard that word, but there's to process. There's a process here. And it's important that we go through that process, and I try to just, it's going to feel uncomfortable to be around it, quite honestly, around people that have had loss. I want to encourage you to lean into it, to lean into the listening. That's what a great leader does, listen, and be curious, and in a good way, meaning what's going on, where are you at, assessing where the person is, so that way you can help provide them the necessary support. If you're not actively listening and seeking input, you may be sharing things that are unnecessary at this point. I was very blessed. My family and I were very blessed. We had very good friends that we had developed relationships with for years. They had been to a church that I went to, and they reached out to us and they said, please come stay with us during our evacuation. And they hosted us. Thank you, Tom and Chris Breeze. I'm just going to give a shout out to them. They're beautiful people that helped our family in this time. How can you support people? How can you come alongside them? It could be giving money. It could be donating resources. It could be just listening. It could be volunteering, for example, animal shelters like the Humane Society are helping take in animals. They need donations, and they're having people care for these animals. There's people that are going and doing cleanup. There's people that are hosting different people. There's all different ways, and you don't have to do it just like anybody else. You just figure out what that is for you. But one of the best things you can do is help just be a place for people to allow them to just be and kind of exude and go through their emotions. Emotions aren't right or wrong, but oftentimes I feel there's an uncomfortableness, if you will, with processing those, especially in the workplace. And it can be done in a healthy way. As leaders, a true leader, I feel, rises out of crisis. When everything's are going good and smooth, it's not really hard to be, quote unquote, a leader. A real leader is, how do they show up in the challenges? We remember those leaders, Winston Churchill, for example, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, people that went through World War II, right? That had extreme challenges. How do they lead? Did they lead well? Or maybe they didn't lead well. And we also remember them too, unfortunately, for things that they didn't do well. But when we have strong leaders, it makes a big difference in how communities come together after aftermath. How are they a unifier or are they a divider? Are they ones that are able to take on the frustrations, the anger, or they just try to maneuver or politicize it, right? We can come together as a community, and that's what I want to encourage you about. We can only come together as a community as we share and we go through this, kind of as a living organism, if you will. The more your organization can, come together and go through this, the better it is. If you kind of isolate it, or you try to you just stay over here, you just stay over there, it doesn't, it's not as healthy in my experience. And so the more we can get local organizations connected to each other, think about departments working together when there's challenges and there's processing of this, it really helps the collective sense of everybody's well-being, and it really fosters resilience as we take action together. That versus just yourself, but the healing power of coming and being part of something bigger than yourself. I'm a firm believer in this idea of being a healing organization. How do you become a healing organization? How do you become a place where it's not just where people work, it's a place where they build relationships and connections with one another. They look after each other. And that's what we really want to help in the community. I can tell you firsthand, having lived here up in the San Bernardino Mountains, you develop that purposefully and intentionally, at least I do, as you build relationships when things are good or things are that's where you want to be doing that. It's not that you can't come in and jump into a relationship and try to help people, but the better that you're building relationships, it will help when the trying times come, and just look around. Where are you at? What can you do with where you're at? Where your position is, what we only have so much money, we only have so much time, but look at the people in your sphere and what can you do to help. I had a friend that I grew up with. Unfortunately, they lost their house in Altadena. I reached out to them, and they said, we've got our children, they're helping us, but just reaching and letting them know that I care. I want to make sure that hey, somebody else is looking after them. Sometimes maybe that's all that you can do right now, but maybe there's somebody in your local community that you can help with. Look for the challenges and help other people head them on and become this idea of how do we heal each other? How do we help foster that connection? And that will build resilience. I've seen it, for those of you that are around 2001 and we had 9/11, there was a resilience there, especially those in New York City, because they lived it. Somebody said, I was listening to the radio, that this is our quote unquote 9/11 in the sense of the destruction and feeling it here locally. I think when you're in that, it obviously that I know the neighborhoods, I know the areas. This is unfamiliar to me. I work with clients that have been and worked in these areas. And so there's a lot of direct connection. And so it's important that we process this and we look for ways to build community in whatever way that is for you. If it's a donation, it's volunteering, it's listening. The idea is that we're coming together. And the more we do this regularly, the better we're off. One of the things I really liked that we did one of my former employers, Vargas Environmental, we would have ways that we could raise funds to help a charity organization. And so, some of the things you do now, like giving blood is a great example. Giving blood right now may not be an emergency. They're not literally taking your blood. They might be having for an emergency surgery or something like that, but your blood given today is going to be used somewhere else. You don't even know when, So think about how we're planting seeds, how we're, preparing for these things in the future. Red Cross is always taking donations. There's other great organizations that you can participate in regularly. So those are important. We want to go and ascend beyond the loss here. What we want to do is, take these challenges and use them quite literally to spark that transformation. Let's spark in the good way the growth, that we can rise to new levels of service and empathy, meaning we're looking outside of ourselves. We're looking at others. How do we serve others? How do we lift them up? Really have a servant's heart. That to me is part of being a strong leader, is that we've kind of taken our eyes off ourselves, and this is a perfect opportunity because we almost have to, because we look at the destruction, we look at the challenges, we look at the sacrifices that the firefighters, the first responders are doing, and we're saying, okay, how can, it's like you almost have to pull up your head and look and see. And that's a good thing in the sense of it's taking us off our selfishness and starting to look and see how can we rebuild? How can we build resilience and togetherness? And this is a real call to action for all of us. Are we doing this on a regular basis? Not just when there's an extreme crisis like we have here in Southern California right now, but are we looking for this as an ongoing thing? Because there's honestly people in your life, in your organization, that are facing challenges in their own way. And are you able to click into that? Are you able to be aware of that? If you are, I'm telling you that the lasting impact that you're going to have on your employees is going to be, it would be very difficult to measure in a good way, meaning, this lasting impact can be reiterated for their whole life, and they'll remember that. I can tell you, when I was going through my divorce, this was years ago, 20 years ago, I had some good friends and coworkers, honestly, that took the time to listen and walk alongside me. Of course we had all this work to do, but they knew I was having personal challenges at the time. And they took the time to listen, to come alongside. They showed grace, understanding, and it was so welcome. And I still remember it to this day, and I'm so grateful. I want you to consider, how can that be for you? What is, somebody in your organization? Maybe there's an outside group that you guys can go participate in. I worked with Orange County Food Bank last year. We did Community Action Partnership of Orange County, where we packed thousands of boxes for elderly folks, for example. Because when we start to look at others and we say, my goodness, I have so much, I have a lot to be thankful for, it shows how we can help others. And sometimes just that alone can help build resilience and encourage somebody. That helps them along their way, and then they help somebody else along their way. So think about that as a leader. How do you foster hope and unity in crisis? How do you demonstrate that? Are you the person going? Are you the person serving? I want you to figure out how you're taking action from the ashes, from the challenges that you're facing. The more that we can do that, the better off we're going to be, and the better off our organization and those that are under our protection, if you will. Those that are our sphere of influence, at least. Because if we're not thinking about that, and we're only thinking about our own bottom line, our own self, I'm telling you, that's it's not going to end well. You're going to be challenged and you're going to left wanting. I've been there. I know that at firsthand. If I'm just getting sucked up and only thinking about myself, when I was going through difficult times, like I said, through my own divorce, once I started to shift it, and I looked at like, how can I help others? How can I show gratitude? What can I do to serve others? Even though I was in a difficult situation, that helped. Also, it was also humbling and helpful to receive. And for those of you that are in this challenging time where you've lost a home, you've lost a business, your health is down, financially you're not in a good place, allow others to be a blessing to you as well. That's really important as a leader. If you're a leader and you're struggling and you're having a difficult time for various reasons, maybe it's health reasons, allow others, even if they're subordinates to you. It's not a bad thing. In fact, it's a really honor for them to serve and to give and to help wherever they can. So I want you to think about that. I want to challenge you in your thinking. As a leader, we get to help unite. We help to bring hope. We help to, like I said, unify your community, your team in the face of loss, in the face of challenge. How are you going to show up? Even in the darkest times, we all have the power to rise. We all have the power to ascend. And we can rebuild. We can lead ourselves in a better place. I come to you with intelligent leadership out of love and care because I want to see you succeed. I want to see you rise. You don't have to be a victim. You don't have to be down and out. We all have those times. But I come out of love, care, and I'm not going to stop. This is what I have to offer, what I have to give. I hope it encourages you. I hope you know you're not alone, that you have an advocate here. I'm David Carr, I've stewarded your business. I poured all that I can into this because I care and I want to see you succeed. I welcome your reflections and your stories of resilience and how you've encouraged others. Share this podcast if it's ringing true, it's encouraging you today. Come back and be a part of the journey with me and steward your business. Let's come together, let's heal and rebuild together. I hope this brings you clarity, hope that you're loved in the face of crisis, and that you'd come back and be a part of this once more. Thank you so much for listening. Till next time, take care.